Perfect. So before going with our conversation, we would like to remind everyone that the Maryland Hispanic Chamber doesn't endorse any business, but supports all Latino business and the economic development of Maryland. So we put this program together to do that. We want to thank our BAM sponsors and our corporate sponsors. With their support, this is possible. And we have also countless opportunities for businesses to get informed, connect, and grow. So here are some of the upcoming events. You can see them on the screen. But I would say check our calendar often because it's always evolving. We always put in more events, more opportunities, and also check our community and partners calendar. There are plenty of information there, not only events, but also sometimes relevant information for the business community. And last but not least, I would say consider joining the chamber. Our membership runs January through December, so this is a fantastic time to join and maximize your benefits. So you can find more information on our website, but also if you have any questions later on, I will put my contact information on the chat, and you can contact me directly if you have questions. I also encourage you to put all your contact information in the chat and use this as an opportunity to network, maybe connect with other participants. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what is your business, what are your goals maybe this upcoming year. I don't know. So feel free to share with us. And with that said, I will stop sharing this. Oops. Okay. Oops. Sorry. All right. Give me just 1 second. It seems like something is not going well. I want to say that we have in the house the one and only Marco Avila, our president and CEO. Marcos, do you want to say a few words? I know that he's driving, so it might be a little challenging.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you, Patricia. I just wanted to welcome everybody and wish you a happy Friday. We try to do these FAM meetings every month, advocacy and mentorship, to make sure we bring valuable information for our members and everybody that wants to join us, right? I'm excited about our organization in 2026. We've been growing tremendously. We put in together amazing, top-notch, first-class events. Our signature events coming up are just going to be amazing, and you don't want to miss out. There's probably going to be about 3 or 4 summits, including energy summits, infrastructure transportation summits, health summit, real estate summit, and we're looking into other summits that we're going to be doing in 2027 as well. And one of the things that we are going to be concentrating this year is also bringing new opportunities to our members in the region, and basically bringing the entire Latin American industry and Spain into our region to be able to do an interaction between our members and organizations, and have an extended benefit to what we do. So non-Hispanic businesses are also joining because they want to tap into the Hispanic market, which is the fastest growing market in the country, right? So you want to make sure you are involved in it and don't miss that boat, right? So really appreciate your attendance today, and I hope you enjoy and interact with our amazing expert, Gabriela Romo, who's going to talk to us about a very important topic today. And and the amazing book that she just wrote. So with that, I hand it over back to you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. And one thing I forgot to mention, next year, 2026, is our 40th anniversary as the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We're planning activities around that and, an initiative. So please stay tuned. I think it's a great way to maximize, if you're a member, but also to get to know us as well. Okay. So with that say, I'm gonna give a brief introduction because her bio is extensive, but we're gonna try to keep it simple for you today. We're pleased to welcome Gabriela Romo, a bilingual licensed clinical professional counselor and author dedicated to uplifting immigrant communities. Born in Mexico, Gabriela's work focus on helping individuals and families navigate emotional well-being and the challenges associated with migration, including psychosocial evaluations. She holds a master's degree in mental health counseling from Johns Hopkins University and a master's degree in development studies from the University of London's School of Oriental and African Studies. Her postgraduate degree is from Oxford. Wow. She has served as a long-time voice on radio, discussing mental health and community issues for La Mera Mera. In addition to her clinical work, Gabriela is the founder of Latinamente, a nonprofit supporting vulnerable Latino populations. She is a recipient of the Otley Award, Mexico's highest honor for community services abroad, recognizing her impactful contributions to Mexican and broader Hispanic communities. And she's also been recognized as a Latina leader by the Montgomery County Council in 2025 during the Hispanic Heritage celebrations. Today, she will introduce us to Undocumented Journeys, Voices of the Central American Diaspora, a powerful collection of firsthand narratives that bring clarity, emotion, and depth to the lived realities of forced migration. Gabriela doesn't soften the details in her book. She honors the truth of what these individuals endure on the road north and what they continue to face after arriving in the US. This book is a reminder that migration is not a single moment, but a long, uncertain journey. So Gabriela, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Please take it away. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the Chamber of Commerce to opening this space, and also for everybody who is attending. Well, I want to introduce the book, but that's merely probably an excuse with this topic that I'm not an author. It's just, this is my first book. I don't know if it's going to be the last one or not, but I want to share with you how the process of writing a book, if you have that in mind, particularly for people who, like me, are owners of your own business, your community leaders, or your executives, and you have this back in your mind of probably writing a book, but you don't have the experience. So I'm going to share my experience along this process, what to avoid, give you some recommendations, and something that, things that I learned along the way that I wish somebody had told me in advance. But for whoever is interested, I think that this is a great experience overall, but I want to give you all the details. So, oops, I cannot go to the next slide. Hold on. Maybe I'll go this way. I don't know why I couldn't share the whole thing, but anyway. So, Undocumented Journeys, Voices of the Central American Diaspora, just to give you, put it in context, is basically a collection of stories. In my work, I've heard a lot of stories from immigrants because what I do is that I provide evidence to immigration cases, to immigration about the trauma, the hardship, and so there are a lot of stories that I've heard throughout the years I've been doing this. And some of them have been very moving. And and many times I was told like, oh my God, you have to share these stories. You have to let other people know what's behind uh, an immigrant or the reasons that they left uh, outside of common the common knowledge or the messages that we hear about. And so this book came as like that, and as a way to for me to give back to the people who share with me those stories. Of course, all the identifying information has been changed to protect the identity and the safety of the people. And so basically these stories show that. And but along the way, I started writing this book, I would say, or identifying the stories probably in 2020, sorry. And but I think that when you uh, want to write a book, I think that it's important to recognize why you want to write this, particularly when this is not your means of living. And as executives, as people who have their own business that have nothing to do with publishing books, I think it opens um, a lot of doors. It helps you to establish that authority in your field or in your expertise, give you some credibility to differentiate among a crowd. Um, I think that, let me tell you something. When I launched this book, that was in September, so a couple of months ago only, and that has given me a lot of opportunities to like talk about the book, to talk about immigration, to go into different settings that I was not talking to them, the academia. I went to Mexico recently and I was able to take advantage and go to universities and talk about this, and so that they know what we are facing here. And so it's been you it's more like a business card for sure, and it gives you open opportunities. And also, as I said, like, I was in Mexico and I was able to present the book. So it gives you that extension of wherever you are located and that impact that it is beyond time as well, because the book stays there. And it's available, will be available many years later on. And so whether that also can make you feel a little bit vulnerable of like, oh my God, what I wrote back then, but it's still, it is something that it is not just what you're doing in your day to day. Um, so how do you make this shift from being an expert on whatever you do, you become an expert? You've been doing something, whether you are a dentist or you work on construction or you work on design, you become an expert because you've been doing this every day. But when you become an author, probably can be very overwhelming. And many times we have these common barriers. And I'm sharing this with you that I had. And sometimes I still have to remind myself that, oh my God, I've been doing this now, and you have to face them. Many times we just think, oh my God, I don't have time to write a book. I would like to do that, but at what time? It's like work, it's family, it's like, free time as well that I don't want to be spending it like writing a book. And so, although I would like, I don't have the time. Well, I'm going to go to that a little bit, but also that it is quite common that it probably will cross your mind is that, well, what can I say about this topic when a lot of people have already written about this? When you just everything has been written, something has been written about, right? Like everybody, if you really look into anything, it's like somebody probably has already written about this. So what do I really have to offer? The other thing is like, I'm not a writer. This is not what I do. Like, I don't live selling books that I wrote, and this is like my 20th. This will be my first one. And as I said, when I introduced myself, probably I might be the last one. Who knows? And you also put a lot of pressure on yourself that, oh my God, this has to be like groundbreaking. This has to be something that I've not seen before. But let me tell you something. Yes, the time can be a big barrier, but that's why you need commitment, and that's why it has to be something that you really want to do. And when that happens, you're going to start making the time. Now, the thing in my experience is that probably I imagined that I was going to be sitting down in front of my computer and Sunday morning and overlooking, outside and getting the inspiration and having solid hours to write. Well, no, that didn't happen. So it was at moments in which for me, it was like, oh my God, this story that I just heard, I think this is something that has value and will bring that human aspect to numbers. Like, this is a story. So I started for me to just collect in different moments this story, to identify them, and sometimes just writing about them and putting that in a file. Yes, a lot of people have written about anything, basically, and everything. But let me tell you something. You have some expertise, and what you do probably is a combination of what you know, your knowledge, but the way you do things, or what you've seen that is an issue, and that nobody like knows that much about that. The I'm not a writer thing, yes, but I mean, you think about it, like how many books are out there that uh, do not come from writers. It's just like people who want to share something, and it's like a guide or a nonfiction book or whatever that is. So put that aside. And when we think that, oh my God, it has to be something that I'm discovering a new way of thinking, no, books don't have to be perfect in that sense. So we probably put our expectations that very high, and I know that it is feels very like putting yourself out there. And sometimes I just say, like, oh my God, like writing a book is like being naked, like just put yourself out there to be judged or to be scrutinized. Um, but let me tell you, what you have in your mind and you want to do it is of value. So um, and also as business owners, as consultants and leaders, there are different types of books as well. So authority books, one of those, practical guides, like how to do things. In my case, was story driven. So these cases, these stories that I wanted to share, and the vision book, like you see that how the market is going ahead, right? So in my case, the story driven, for me, it was like I want to show the human aspect of the statistics. I want to show what I every day I hear, and I think that people should know the stories behind of the people that they interact, and they don't know what really brought them here. Particularly in my case, most of them are asylum seekers, women that there's a lot of trauma behind, and sometimes we just misjudge people, or we just like hear messages and we just could repeat them. So is as a business owner, for me, I have my private practice in mental health. For me, it was important to share this, and to the same time is a way to advocate for my clients. Now, how do you start? And that can be an overwhelming thing. Well, let me tell you that I think that the most practical way of doing it is to start with a strategy, not really an inspiration. in my personal experience, it's not that I'm, as I said, like an author, a writer. And so it's like suddenly I have this idea of writing about this or, a story that I created in my mind. So it was more like a strategy. It's like, how do I start? And to me, it was important to answer some questions. Why do I want to like write a book? Because it's a process. Sometimes it's a little bit painful, sometimes a little bit boring, but like, why do I really want to write this book? In my case, it was like, I want to share these experiences. I want to make people have more compassion, to be moved the way I've been moved. So, like, okay, having that clear, you have to move into, does this solve a problem? To me, we're solving a problem of, maybe it's very abstract, of people not understanding the stories behind immigrants beyond the usual common knowledge of improving their employment opportunities or uh, in in general, and improving their opportunities. It was this other one, that it is like the violence sometimes that it is back there, that is like forcing people to migrate. So it's like, to me, it was like breaking the stigma of the immigrants and what's behind. My ideal reader, I think that we also need to think about that, because sometimes we just think that it, in great terms, like, oh, for everybody. And I don't think that books should be written for everybody, because then for some people will be boring, for some people will be like not very interesting. So we really need to think about, who do I want this book to go to? Is the people who don't know anything about this topic, people who are just entering into this sector? Is this for people who I want people to know because they would be good for them to have this other perspective? So these are questions that can help you to strategize how to start writing. And I think that because we do this all the time, if you, as a business owner, for example, will maybe think about of the conversations that you have had with people, with the presentations you've done, with trainings you have already designed, so that this can be your chapters, or this can be the points that you really want to talk about in your book, what you really want to highlight. Now, also, I think that we can answer the questions like, what do I believe most people get wrong? What is the most common question people ask me? And that could be, something that is like, okay, so this is something I want to talk about. Also, maybe it's about the way I see things, the way I want to teach a method, or things to be considered. So what it is in your perspective, in your expertise, that you can share with others. And I'm putting here, you see this screenshot of a book that is called The Elements of a Style. And that helps people to avoid the common mistakes of grammar for writing a book. So it's a very basic book that can help you to polish that part. So just sharing this with you. But then I think that it's important to have an outline, more than just like, okay, so this is my first sentence that I'm going to write. So an outline. And think about this outline as a logical sequence of things that you want to say. If you have these specific questions, that could be chapters. So go from and this is almost like a presentation. Go from a problem, the solution, and how you would apply it. And that helps a lot for people who want to write about like how to. My book is not about that. If you read it, you'll see the common causes of people migrate from specific countries, from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. And then I just go with the stories from these specific questions without the countries, without saying, oh, you see the corruption, look at this example. No, this is like a whole story will present all these issues, the corruption, the violence, the gangs, the domestic violence, that, things that are systemic, basically. Now, this is an important part, publishing, and this is where we get lost. And I want to share my experience with publishing, because then I realized that there are different ways of publishing. I think that the most common one that we know all is the traditional publishing, in which you have to have an agent, you write a proposal, you don't have to have your book written. You have a proposal, you send a draft probably of a first chapter of the what the book is about, and luckily an agent says, okay, I'll take this, and I have connections with these publishers, and we try to sell the story to say this is worth publishing. So here, probably they will send you a check in advance if they say yes, and then they take part of what you sell, and so on. So this is a slow process. I think that you have limited control. This is more bureaucratic. So you need to sell your idea to somebody else, right? The agent, the publisher. And so but this is a traditional, and this can be very good for people who are very well known but you can also be like me, like not known as a writer, but for people who probably are a leader in a topic, right? But this is like where usually go the big authors, to the traditional publishing house. There is another type, which is a hybrid, or in some places called vanity. And this is where in one place, you get all the support you need. For example, the illustrations, the editing, the cover, the design of it, and this can be like a shared cost. So you pay for those services to a company, and they will review it. Sometimes they have these packages in which they will edit, or they will give you some comments and things that you should be considering, and they can send you different covers, what you think, this and that. And then there is the self-publishing. The self-publishing, I was not aware of this. And the self-publishing, it gives you a lot of freedom, because basically you don't need to print the copies ahead of time to sell your books. The traditional publishing, or in the past, it was like, okay, print 1,500 copies, and then we have to sell them in bookstores with friends, in presentations, and so on. With the self-publishing, you have definitely much more independence and flexibility. It's faster. You have to have your PDF, basically, your book finished, but you don't have any guidance. You don't have any other third person to check your book. So this can be also a little bit risky because we don't know anything about design, but it gives you a lot of control, because you just send it to a platform, and every time that book is sold, it's printed, right? And so it is, you don't have to make that big investment. Now, as I put it here, you need guidance for this type, because as I said, you don't know about you may think that, oh, I just put it in ChatGPT and format my document for publishing. That is not well done yet. And there are some styling, there is some design that goes directly into publishing. So that is something that you need to consider. And also, you probably will have some mistakes, or you need somebody to really read this ahead of publishing, because once you publish it, it's out there. Now, for this, and for if you want to write, I think it's good to have a mentor. I think it's good to have another person who can look at it and give you, that point of view, that perspective, and it's like, you know what, your story doesn't really it repeats itself, or the wording that you're using, or whatever it is. I can give so a mentor or somebody that you trust and that you think that has something valuable to offer. Probably is not a person who knows exactly about that topic, but that give you those insights as a general reader, or somebody who writes very well, or somebody who knows about this and is like, you know what, I think that you should explore more about this avenue, or I know about this research, and probably you can use that as well to whatever you want to say. So I think that that's important. And this is something that is important for you to know ahead of time, how you want to publish your book. Because as I said, like once it's out there, it's out there. So, but let me tell you something about the self-publishing, which is an advantage. If there is something that you realize is like, oh my God, this is a mistake or something. In my case, for example, I wanted to have a disclaimer. It didn't go out with a disclaimer. Now it does have a disclaimer. And so you just put it out there like this is a new version. If it's something that changes a lot, you probably need a second, it will be the second edition. So it has to go through a whole process. In my case, something else, if somebody wants to do something similar, like as I did, like these are real cases, I did check with a literary lawyer, and that's somebody who looks at copyright, somebody who looks at privacy, confidentiality, something that won't put you out there in danger, because for me it was like real life cases, and so I needed to protect their identity, but also to also be under HIPAA, right? So it's important sometimes to check, not sometimes, but it's important to check with a literary lawyer, particularly for the type of book that you want to write. Some common mistakes, and I want to share these, that's some things to avoid, is editing while you're writing. You are gonna feel under pressure to edit and edit and edit whatever you wrote. And this could be a barrier to move on. It is tempting, but it is a draft. Don't feel under pressure to edit while you're writing. Just write. Editing will come later. Otherwise, you'll be stagnated. And if you're a perfectionist, you will never have it done. And honestly, the book is you want to have it launched, right? You want to finish the product. It's your baby. The other thing is that probably is like you want to cover everything you know. It's like if it's a guide, for example, of how to do something, you probably feel like I want to cover everything. In my case, I had so many countries I want to cover. I'm from Mexico. I just felt compelled that I needed to write stories about Mexico. I heard about stories from Venezuela, from Nicaragua. And suddenly it was like, oh my God, I have like more than 50 stories that I wanted to share. And or when I was writing about the causes of migration, it was like also it could have been like a textbook, right? Like trying to cover everything. And that's not the case. So you should be very clear what angle, what you want to write about that. And I think I mentioned this before. Avoid like writing for everybody. Think about the people that you want to for them to write. Who's your ideal reader? Who do you want to reach? Not for everybody, because any book is not for everybody. Avoid writing like a personal journal. That's usually that's a no-no. That from like common knowledge, the people say like, no, it has to be more compelling. Don't measure, and this is another recommendation, don't measure your progress by the number of pages. That's not the case. It's about the project, the idea that you want to write about. Number of pages doesn't tell you anything. It's like, oh yes, I have 100 pages written. No, or like 7,000 words. No, it's about like moving along those chapters, moving along the idea that you want to share. Another thing to avoid is like waiting for the inspiration, waiting for the confidence, because it will never arrive like that. Not even the confidence. This is something that you want to do, you commit to do it. Once it's out there, and I'm telling you from my personal experience, the confidence will start coming out as you talk about the book, as it's out there, as it is, the conversations that you have, the presentations. Because honestly, once it's out there, and I write a lot when I'm in my day-to-day work, I write a lot of reports to immigration, but it's very different. Those are very technical. I feel like that's my comfort zone. It's like I know what I'm writing. But when you select those stories or you just put an angle and put it in a book, suddenly that confidence is like, oh my God, I just exposing myself. Why did I select these stories to begin with, right? It's like because you start getting a lot of doubts. And so it is a process. And the inspiration, the same, is, as I said before, is more about the strategy. What do I want to answer? Who is this for? What I'm writing this book as a small business owner, as a business owner. Why do I want to write this book? To have this as a very good presentation about myself, or what? And any answer is correct. There's no like incorrect answer for this. This is like your personal book, right? This is something you want to do. Another common mistake that it is like reading and reading and reading what you wrote. I think that avoid that, because the same as with editing, you'll get stagnated. Don't seek perfection. I don't even think that there are books that are perfect. Not even the classics, because time passes and it's like for some generations that's like, oh my God, no, don't put me there to read something like that. So I think that it is what you want to say. So don't try to seek perfection. And when you publish, don't think about this book that I want to publish without a purpose. It has to fulfill a purpose that you have, whatever that is, but have it very clear. And I think that any writing really starts with having this very clear and the commitment. If you have the commitment, it doesn't matter how long it takes. And let me tell you, it does take some time. To me, it took me several years, but I know from others, from people who write a lot, it is at least a year. So you really need that commitment, particularly when you have other responsibilities. You have work, you have family, you have, other things to do. So it is about commitment, because if you think that, okay, I'm going to allow myself to go on a trip and just write, it is a commitment still that you have to allow that time. But honestly, for people who are busy and with whoever has other things to do, it will be at different moments. For some people, it works very well to have that discipline that every week I'm going to allow myself 60 minutes to work on this on the book. From some others, it's more about like the moments that I have, or when I see something that, oh, this is something I want to write about. But just make it that something that it is constant. It follows, a flow. But more than anything, just have very clear what you want. I know that for some people who have like, this, they write about fiction books. Sometimes they just don't know how it's going to end, right? I talked to authors about that, and so it is a process, but they have clear something that they wanted to start saying, like some, a character or something, the story behind, and so that's how it progresses. So anyway, here is how the book looks. It's called Undocumented Journeys, Voices for the Central American Diaspora. And whoever is, interested or would like to give it as a present now in the holidays, I just want to let you know that each book that will sell that sells goes directly into providing mental health services for our Hispanic community who needs it, particularly for their immigration cases. And so to me, that's like something else that I realized once I launched the book, that what a perfect opportunity to help others through this book. At the end of the day, the investment was already there, but so we can use this for whatever we want. For me, the book, as I said before, it was this giving back, trying to instill that compassion and for other people to open their minds and to see what else is out there, and for advocate for my people. So I let you this out there, and I think that we should go into questions and answers. And I know that we're short of time, but I can give you my perspective, my personal experience of writing a book.
That's
So I'm gonna
amazing.
stop
Thank you
sharing.
so much, Gabriela. That's awesome, and you give us a lot of tips and insights. I have a few questions, but
Sure.
please, if you have any, the audience, feel free to get unmute or raise your hand, and we'll be happy to address them. I'm curious from the um, project, perspective, a couple of things. Number one, and I know this could vary for many people on different topics, but what do you would say, because you talk about time and how long it will, probably take at least a year, maybe several years, how you had to be consistent and moving, forward and in the process. But we didn't talk about money. So roughly,
Yes.
and this is with the business mindset, okay? Roughly, what you would say is a good range to say, okay, I want to get into this endeavor, and how much it's going to cost me to make it happen? Can you give us some light on that?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, as I said, there are different ways of publishing. And I didn't go through the traditional publishing, which is that they give you a check in advance of what they think it's going to sell for, right? They will keep like a commission or proceedings, I don't know, a percentage
Mhm.
of the books that will sell. I didn't go through that route. So it is a range. So it can range between $2,000 for the services of like, okay, I will need somebody to design the cover, for somebody to look at it and to edit. But it could be $20,000 as well. So it is a huge range, and it tells you a lot about that it is not very consistent, and you have to shop around, and that it's good to know from others how it went. But it is a little bit of an investment. Now, let me tell you something. With Amazon, which is really good in terms of how it works. So basically, when every time the book gets printed, it's sold, sorry, it gets printed, right? Now, as an author, as a writer, you have, I think, like up to 2,000 copies. I can't remember very well,
Mhm.
but you can buy them at cost, which is like less than $5 per copy. I think it's like $3.50 or something like that. The book sells for 20 to begin with.
Mhm.
So, right? So this is something that you can buy a lot of copies so that you can give them away, like a present, or like, oh, I met you, here's my book, or presentations, or whatever. So that is not a huge investment. Um, and at the end of the month, Amazon, for whatever they sold through their platform, you get the deposit directly to your bank account. So
Nice.
that's actually very good. Amazon makes it very simple,
Mhm.
and it can take, when you buy your author copies, it can take like around 5 weeks to get them.
Okay.
Just to
Okay.
let you know. So
That
it is a
that
process too. So just think that, oh, my author copies, my box will arrive in 2-day prime,
yeah.
free shipping. No, it is different, but it is very convenient, I have to say. I have to admit it. Like Amazon made it like very simple for people who are not going through that route of the traditional publishing.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Um, the other question I have, and I'm gonna start digging into the topic too, is like how do you manage, because this is something that is in everybody's top of mind right now. This is a topic that is in everybody's top of mind, right? It's in the news, it's in the community, you have both sides and everything. So how do you manage the expectations and even sometimes the negativity, maybe from some people about this?
Thank you. That's a very good and honest question, Patricia.
I'm
That's
sorry I
very
even put you on
right.
the stop, but I just
No, no, no. That's, I think, is right. Let me tell you something. When I thought about this book, I thought it was gonna take less than what it took me, honestly. Uh, so many things, like always, distracted me to doing the work. And suddenly it was like this year that got launched. This year has been particularly difficult for immigrants, right? So it was like, okay, the timing couldn't be the best one, honestly. Yet at the same time, and that's what I had to check with the literary lawyer, it was like, oh my God, with everything that's going on, what could this be? Could I become a target? Or, how could this be taken, right? Um, but I think that, yes, you feel very vulnerable out there when you talk about these issues because people have different opinions, and this is a very hot topic. But I think that you just have to be very true to yourself and say, like, no, for this reason, this is what I wanted to publish this book. And in my case, like I keep telling myself, it's like, this is something that you want to share. You wanted to share a different perspective. You want to give voice to the silenced people. And this is, yes, it's a narrative that is very different from what now we're listening and we're hearing. And and also to me it was like, this is for the Hispanic community. So this is to show that human aspect, of the messages, of the numbers, of all that. And you know what also, Patricia, I think that, and I was not expecting this, is, and I this is why I try to motivate people to write, even if they think they cannot write. It really opens you a lot of doors. Really. This is in September, we're in December, and this has caused some curiosity about the topic because it's different from different. I mean, it's like I know people have read, like written about this, but it is probably the timing that it is. So any person who writes about anything, it will always be also in a specific context. And so you always have something uh, to say.
yeah, and
And
contribute and
yeah, to contribute. And as I said before, it's like you probably work in the construction sector, but yes, your experience, your probably somebody wants to know before embarking into that, like how it is done, if it's worth it or not. I remember when I opened my private practice many years ago after working in the development sector and always getting a paycheck, regardless if it was vacations or not. And I wanted to know, like, how do I open your private practice? How do I start? Like, what are the things I need to consider? And maybe things have changed these days because now we can work on, from home. And at that time, that was not a possibility. It was like you have to see your clients in your office. But and maybe that's outdated now. That's why now, it's something you have to contribute. So I think
Thank
that
you.
it I would say that for anybody, like, launch yourself to do it, and but have very clear why you're doing it. Very, very clear. And any reason that you have, it is valid. And I know that for many leaders, it is about like, I want to that I have some authority on this issue in my
Mhm.
sector. And that's okay. That's valid. Yes, you'll be able to, somebody will invite you to talk about your views about that thing that you do.
Yeah. And even when you start a business, they always say, think in your why, not how, but why you're doing this, and you emphasize on that many times. So Nigel has a hand raised. So what is your question, Nigel, or your comment?
Great. First of all, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I've been saying for years I want to write a book, and I've haven't gotten started. So I think you may have just pushed me. My question is this: I love that first one of the first slides you spoke about the why. So you want to have impact, you want to reach different folks. So how much do you keep your authentic voice when you write versus changing it for an audience that you're trying to get in front of?
I think that you always have to keep yours. Trying to please audiences, you will never be able to achieve that because we all have different perspectives. We come from different places. We'll have different opinions. I think that you just keep being true to yourself, and the rest will come. Some people will think that, oh my God, yes, they're saying something super interesting. For some other people will think that no. And that's okay. It's like, because you honestly, just as I said before, there is no perfect book and you will never be able to please audiences. So just have very clear what you want to say, what you truly believe, uh, it's and that's it, basically. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have a very nice comment from Carla on the
Mm.
chat. She have wrote the book, and you know, she's putting her comment
Oh,
there. I think it's fantastic, and I'm
I'm
so glad
reading
that
it.
she did. I didn't read the book yet, but definitely I already bought it. So, and but it is, I think it's a like you say, like a very human perspective, and putting the human faces and names to all those numbers and those things that we hear sometimes. But this is real, right? The struggle is real, the challenges, but also the achievements. And it's important that people learn about them. So.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. And
and
and actually, when I was writing, it was like, oh, maybe I should cover all the reasons like people migrate, or to have stories that, share, that showcase all these different reasons. Um, and I said that's a trap if you really want to cover everything, because it's huge and you're not writing an encyclopedia. You're, unless you want to write a textbook and that's what you really want to do. Yes, you have to be very thorough and try to cover everything. So, but if not, try to like take one angle, and for me that was important, like just one angle of the violence, the reasons why people have to escape and are forced to migrate, not that they chose, they were forced to migrate. And I love your comment, Carla. Thank you very much. But and I think that for any type of book, as I said, like these are true cases, and I was not. My expectation was not for people to have it as a textbook. I know that, as I said, like unexpected things happen. I just taught a course, not a whole course. I was invited with the students to talk about immigration, and we discussed about these issues through these stories. So you never know how this is gonna take you. I was, not exposed to talking to students. My field has been more, you talk about mental health during these difficult times, or there is, I am a contributor in Univision, Telemundo, and it's about, a shooting happened, and I talk about that, but it like these just open a lot of doors that I was not expecting, and just start like doing it and talking like, oh yeah, like with your friends, like just launch this book, and you probably have a group of friends who are very diverse, who know people who are very different, and so on, and so it's out there. So if you want to retire and just live from the revenue that you're going to make with your book, probably what I'm saying is not the right thing. And you should go to a traditional publisher and talk to people who have much more experience and that they live based on the bestsellers that they have written. But I'm just sharing my experience, and I think that for people who are thinking about it and they have this, little bug there with you that is like, yes, I have an idea or I want to do this, go ahead.
Yeah. And with that said, also you mentioned it's very we have diverse groups, right? And groups of friends and colleagues, and the Latino, the Hispanic community is very diverse too. So I can, my reason for coming to the US is very different from someone from maybe Guatemala to come to the US, right? So with that said, because I'm thinking, oh, okay, I can buy this and gift it to some of my Latino friends, but I'm also thinking, wait a minute, maybe I should give this to other people that don't know all these stories, right? So who do you think is the target audience for this book?
Somebody who is not really well, who doesn't know that much about immigration, but that it is probably, repeating what other people say without having a real personal opinion. I think that people should be reading this type of book. Um, People who have a negative idea of immigrants, I think that also those people should be reading this book. People who misjudge immigrants, I think that they should be reading this book too. Yeah.
That's very, very important. See, that's where I was like, let me think about this. Who I want to reach out, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That's why I wrote it in English. My first language is Spanish. I'm from Mexico.
Yes.
That's my mother tongue. And it's actually challenging also to write in a different language, particularly because when I write in English, it's been very technical for my reports for immigration, right?
Right.
But that was the reason I wrote it in English. Like, I just thought that people who probably are not in the Hispanic community and that are not sensitive to the issue of immigration. So,
And even the new generations. I'm thinking, like young generations, they were born here or basically raised here, but they don't get the whole story, right? Of their inheritance and what their parents went through, or all that. And sometimes it's a little taboo as well, right? We don't want to share. But I think put it in a book and third eye perspective, right? It's someone else, but it's there, right? It's real. So, and Carla has some questions. She say, what's the best way to market and promote your book if you are self-publishing it?
So actually, you can go to bookstores like Prose and Politics, like a local bookstore, for example, Kramer's here in DC, and you can tell them this. I just wrote this book, and they. I think that they in some each one operates in different ways, but they can put it up front, and for a couple of weeks if they think they'll if it goes well, they can extend it. They probably will charge you a little bit, but you can. I have a local bookstore that I know that they share the space if you want to make a book presentation for your neighbors, for example, or people around. I think that sharing it with all the groups that you have of friends, yeah, I just launched this, and start talking to people like, I would like to make a presentation of the book. I want to talk about it. And it can start with just with a group of friends, right? Like in somebody's
Little book
house.
club.
Exactly, a book club. Somebody there is like, oh my God, now I know somebody. I think that, and it is incredible. Also, like I went to my university and I said like, I would like to make a presentation through the university where I studied, and they were like, yeah, sure. So you gotta be out there and talking to people. So, and as I said, like, also, um, just share the link that will you have it for that it will be selling. Also, um, carry a copy with you. You never know who you're gonna be meeting, and it's a perfect way. So it's like, oh, here's my book. And people actually, it's interesting, people like to have books that are autographed. It takes a different value. So
Yeah.
it's so,
Instead of your business card, you have your book, right?
and it's not that expensive when you buy your own copies.
And I know we're passing some, a little behind time, running behind time, and some people have to leave for other meetings. But we also have here Begonia's question. She said, "Thank you, Gabriela. I'm wondering how do you approach with the people that inspire the stories? Even if you keep their information, as a secret, right? But
Yeah.
how you talk to them about this book?"
So I've talked to them like when I get very moved and impacted, and say like, I think that people should know. And many times, not many times, like the times I did, uh, they were very honored. They just felt that it was a way of, I don't want to say the word legacy. It doesn't work. Like to transcend not just for their immigration case, for example, or what they needed, but as a way of giving some value that is doesn't stay just between two people or very tight group. That this is, people should know about your struggles. People should know your achievements or what you've went through. So um, it was a very positive experience of saying, look, I've heard a lot of stories, but yours, I would love to put it in a book. They feel very honored. So to me, at the same time, it's like, oh, thank you. Very honored as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Linda asked if the book is in Audible.
That's the next step. It is, that's the next step. Yes.
Yeah,
It
I
will
bet
be,
it's
it
a
will be
more
soon. Yes.
complex process, right? And it probably takes time.
That has another set of challenges because also choosing the voice
Oh,
that exactly. Um, and that's or the voices to tell the stories or the book. So yes.
wow.
Hmm.
Wow. But to be continued.
Exactly. Thank you, Linda.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you. Any other question? Oh, Begonia, what about translation to Spanish?
Yes, that's another one, another thing they need to do as well. Thank you, Begoña. Yes. And definitely because then with doing it in Spanish, my idea is that should go to other audiences, other countries as well, because the topic of immigration,
It's
it,
international.
it is international.
Yeah.
It is, even if I'm just talking about the diaspora of Central America. And as I said before, I didn't even like mention Mexico, being from Mexico. However, Mexico now is, is a country not only of transition, but also people who return or who decide to stay there, migrating from Central America. So, yes.
Yeah. Yes. And Vivian says, maybe we have a copy of the PowerPoint.
Sure.
So what is going to happen? In a couple of days, you'll receive an email from me with the recording of this session, and I will include the PowerPoint presentation there and a link to the book as well. That way, anyone can review it and take a look at it again and buy the book, etc. So yes, you'll receive a copy.
Yes. So, and remember that whatever gets sold will be for helping our community with it.
Yes, and that was very, very important too, and I think it's important that people that we give the book as well know that they can pay forward, right? They can buy and help other, people that need support with mental health. So
Yes.
so important. So thank you so much. Really appreciate all the insights, all the information you shared. Thank you for staying a few minutes, more. I put in the chat, the link to the book, the link to your website, and we'll share your contact information in the email. And please, to our audience, thank you so much for participating today. And keep in mind, that we're hosting BAM every third Friday of the month with different topics. And we're very grateful that you're here today. And visit our calendar because it's always changes. We're always adding things. We have fantastic speakers like Gabriela that, share their experience, their knowledge, their approach to things. So keep an eye on that. So thank you again. Thank you so much. I hope you have all happy holidays.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for their comments and your interest. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. See you
Feliz
next time.
Navidad.
Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad.